Okay, so for part two, and this is our chapter one test review, part two. Okay, so I just went over some multiple choice questions that should help. In the second part, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to kind of piecemeal together my own questions based off of this data. So I don't want you to pay attention to these ones down here, but let's talk about what's happening here. So you got nitrates, which are organic compounds that are a substantial component of agricultural fertilizers. So you find nitrates in the fertilizers. When those fertilizers run off into the streams, the nitrates can have a toxic effect on animals that live in those streams. An ecologist studying nitrate pollution in two streams collects data on the concentrations at 42 places in Stony Brook. So up here, there are 42 data points and 42 places on Millbrook. So there's also 42 data points here. Okay, you can also see down here in this data printout that those are the number of data points. Okay, they're the results, and you get a bunch of statistics. Part of this chapter, when in quiz 2, I definitely made you guys do this by hand. I give you all the data, determine if there are any outliers, okay, in each distribution. So you have to do both. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Stony Brook, Errook. Okay, so Stony Brook. So let's check high outliers. Okay, so how do we do that? So high outliers, what you do is you're looking at the Stony Brook data. Don't mess that up. You're going to go over here to quartile 3, which is 7.5. And you are going to add 1.5 times the IQR. Okay, so you need the IQR for Stony Brook. By definition, IQR is quartile 3, 7.5, minus quartile 1, 3.5, which is simply going to be 4. Okay, so I have 7.5 plus 1.5 times the IQR, which gives me a value of 7.5 plus 1.5 times 4. Okay, type that straight into your calculator, and you will get 13.5. What does that number mean? Some of you mixed this up on the quiz. That means if there's any data in Stony Brook that is bigger than 13.5, it is an outlier. Well, look up here, Stony Brook. The maximum value is 12. So you can say no high outliers. Okay, let's check low outliers. To check low outliers, what you do is you go to quartile 1. Again, Stony Brook, quartile 1, 3.5. And you subtract 1.5 times 4 this time. Okay, and so if you type that in, 3.5 minus 1.5 times IQR, you get negative 2.5. Negative 2.5. So if there are any data points in Stony Brook that are lower than negative 2.5, it is an outlier. Well, go to Stony Brook and look at the minimum. The minimum is 0. So that means there are no low outliers. Okay, so this is Stony Brook. Now let's do Millbrook. Our other data. Let's do the high outliers. We do the same thing, but we use the other data. So here, quartile 3 is 10.5. 10.5 plus 1.5 times IQR. Well, we need to find the IQR. The IQR for Millbrook is quartile 3, 10.5, minus quartile 1, which is 4.5. So that's going to give me a value of 6. So I come back here and I fill that in. And I do my math. 10.5 plus 1.5 times the IQR, which is 6. And I get 19.5. You guys, this is recorded. If you're lost, hit rewind, right? So what does that say? That says if there are any data points in the Millbrook data that are bigger than 19.5, it is an outlier. So we go back to Millbrook. Are there any data points? What's the maximum? Oh, hey, the max is 20. So let's look up here. That one's at 18. That guy is definitely higher than 19.5. So you can say one high outlier equal to 20. Okay, so there is definitely a high outlier because 20 is greater than 19.5. Some of you did that backwards on the quiz. All right, check low outliers. And to check low outliers, you go to quartile 1, which is 4.5, and you subtract 1.5 times 6. Type it in. 4.5 minus 1.5 times 6. You get negative 4.5. And once again, the minimum value of concentration of nitrates is 0. So it's not going to be negative. So you would say no low outliers. Okay, so in summary, you guys are going to be given, this one's pretty similar, right? You're going to get a graph, you're going to have some data. You have to be able to find outliers. You need to find these numbers. I'm going to check for these numbers, and then I'm going to check for your conclusions, right? So in my brain, point-wise, right, you get a point for each one of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an answer. 5, 6, 7, 8. So you get 8 points there for that question. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of cover these questions up because I'm not going to ask you those. But the next question you guys are going to have to do would be to describe, compare the two data sets. Okay. And again, I will tell you, which some people just refuse to do. You guys can't make it up, right? I can tell whether you're doing work for this class or you're just Googling stuff off of YouTube, of Google, and copying and pasting random stats definitions into your quiz. That will not get you credit with me. You actually have to do my work. So yeah. All right, so let's describe it, compare it. So we're going to use our socks. So let's first talk about shape. And you're supposed to use these comparison words, right? This is the big one I'm looking for. So you want to compare them. Well, how do you do that? All right, well, let's look at this shape. This guy here, if you draw a smooth curve over it, it looks like that. This guy here, if you drew a smooth curve over it, it looks like that. Yeah. So what do we got? Well, it seems like this guy is roughly symmetric. And this guy seems to be kind of having, there's a lot of data around here, and then there's these couple random points out here. So I'm going to say slightly skewed right. And you guys might disagree, and as long as you compare them and you give me your best guess on what you think it is, if it's not clearly wrong, right, then you should be good to go. So you would say Stony Brook distribution appears to be approximately symmetric. You guys need to use these words. You can't use random words like centered and stuff like that. So approximately symmetric, while Millbrook looks slightly skewed to the right. Okay, so you've addressed shape and you've compared the two. The next part of your acronym is the O for outliers. Well, guess what? We just found outliers, but let's say hypothetically that these two problems are different. Okay, and so let's assume that we haven't done our actual calculations for outliers. This one doesn't appear to have any, but Millbrook has two extremely high values, so we're going to say those are possible. Okay, again, assuming we didn't do the actual math, you would simply say that Stony Brook or Stony does not appear to have any outliers, but right, Millbrook looks like it has two possible high outliers. Okay, so we've addressed the O. The next one is center. Okay, and with center, with statistics, right, what can we do? Well, let's compare. Let's compare the means. That's one measure of center, and I'm good with it. You can choose medians or means, but look, Millbrook is definitely higher than Stony Brook. So you just say that. Millbrook has a higher average, right, or mean. Let's use the word mean concentration of nitrates. That is a comparison word, right? You looked at them, right? The means here, and you clearly are saying that Millbrook has higher average number of or percentage of nitrates than Stony Brook. Okay, the last one here is spread. You must address all four SOCS. And the spread, an easy one to do would be the range. And so let's do the range. The range of Stony is, right, the max value they told me is 12 minus 0, so 12. Or let's just compare it right now. So the range of Stony is 12, and look at the range of Millbrook is 20 minus 0. Okay, so this one's going to be less. So you'd say the range of Stony is 12, which is, comparison words, right? Which is less than that of Millbrook, which is equal to 20 minus 0, or 20. Okay, and so what I'm looking for here, you guys, we've done this now. This is our third time if you took the 2 quizzes, right? You must address shape, 2 points, outliers, 2 points, center, 2 points, spread. What am I looking for here? Comparison words, right? Less than, higher, right? Looking just here, you're just identifying them, right? So you did Stony, appear to have none or have any. And then here you have Millbrook, and it looks like 2. Okay, shape, I'm looking for addressing both of them, right? This one appears symmetric while Millbrook appears slightly skewed right. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it can't just be symmetric and skewed right. None and 2 positive, right? These are the answers I get on the quizzes. Millbrook equals 5.524, and Millbrook would equal 7.929 and Stony Brook 5.524. Do not just tell me exactly what they are for the centers, right? Compare them. So tell me which one's bigger in the context of the problem. Okay. Best of luck, you guys. If you missed a quiz, this chapter test will replace it. If you missed 2 quizzes, it only replaces 1. Right? You guys are expected to engage in the class daily. You should be watching these videos, listening to my voice. Some of you are full distance learners. I think there's 23 of you between 2 classes. My assumption is you guys are logging in every day, going to a folder, right, that has the date on it, that shows you exactly what you should do on every day, so that when you email me later and say, well, I didn't know there was a quiz, I didn't know that I had homework, there's not much I can tell you other than, you're not engaging, okay? I just want you to give me a reason to pass you. I'm giving you guys all the stuff you need to get scores that will get you to graduation, right? I know you guys are all seniors, and you got to do something, though, you guys. You can't just do nothing. All right, best of luck. Happy Thursday, and I hope the test goes well tomorrow.